I do want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner with the Israel Defense Forces to talk a little bit more about what he's seeing and the current situation here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I do want to ask first, what have the last 5 days been like for you and for the Israel Defense Forces folks who are there working around the clock?
You know, I think it all began with a very dramatic nightmare as we woke up on Saturday morning to the sound of alarm at 6:30 in the morning. And, you know, I was looking at my phone as the alarms started sounding. And then I turned to my wife and she looked at me, she said, "What's going on?" And I think the state of Israel has been in a bit of a state of shock since that event. The aftermath of that, of course, is the dramatic images that have been circulating on social media, but also now broadcasted, obviously, of the numbers, the figures of the amount of people that have been killed, murdered, butchered in their homes, in their bedrooms, in their kitchens. The current figure is around 1,200, and that number keeps going up. This is, I said it as a number, but it's 1,200 families that have been torn to pieces, memories that will be created, and this is just the beginning of this devastation. And each and every family or each and every story like this, individual, is a world unto itself. And this is, I think, where Israeli society is looking at today to the IDF to make sure that this never, ever happens again.
In your opinion, based on what you've seen, do the pictures, the videos really do justice to what you're actually seeing out there? Because again, I know you all are posting videos on social media to kind of get the word out there and show those images, but is it the same to see it on a computer, on TV, versus actually seeing it there in person?
No, it's not the same, obviously. We see videos all the time about different things, and the people that have come back from the field trying to explain the stench of death mixed with blood and gunpowder is extensive and dramatic, so it's not the same. But I think that what's important is that the world is awakened and realizing that Hamas has crossed a very, very clear red line in its actions this time, and we can't accept that this will be a new norm. And that's why we've seen the world rally around Israel in countries around the world displaying the blue and white colors of the flag of Israel in support and in solidarity. And I think when we look at that, it gives us some confidence. And we know that there are a lot of people that have decided to be on the right side of history and support Israel in our actions. And now what we're doing is taking that fight to Hamas to make sure they never have this capability ever again.
In the media, a lot of the reports have said that this was a surprise attack. This was an unprecedented attack. Is that an accurate depiction of what did happen here?
Well, of course, there was a surprise, because if they would have failed, then it would have been a reason to at least point out the issues of their failure. But they've been successful in fooling us, in penetrating the fence itself, the barrier itself, but also overwhelming the defense forces on the border. So there are intelligence and operational issues that need to be investigated. I would say there will be a time for that, and today is not the time for that.
Of course, yeah, and there are a lot of questions, and as you mentioned today, not necessarily the time for that. It's more about right now, these active scenes that we have seen kind of all over the area. So what stories are you hearing from survivors, families, others with the Israel Defense Forces that you've spoken with?
Well, we've seen a huge amount of personal stories from survivors, from the families that are missing. And I think what the most dramatic images are images of families that were separated, where a husband was separated from his wife, and they took the husband, abducted him off into Gaza, where you see children that have been shot and killed, assassinated in effect. These are the stories and the images that will stick with us for generations. 1,200 victims of this terrorism is unprecedented. And each and every one of those just reminds us why we have to make sure that they can never have this power again.
We know that there is violence that happens in the Middle East. We hear about it all the time, but this is something that is so different, right?
We've never experienced an attack on this magnitude. I would say that this is unique. It is precedent setting. They tried to change the rules of the game, and we are changing the game completely now. There can be no trivialization of terrorism anywhere, but this is something that is completely absurd, inhumane, and it needs to be dealt with.
Knowing that Hamas is posting videos on social media of kidnappings and executions and threatening to commit executions on live broadcasts, what does that mean for your fight that is ongoing against them at this hour?
Well, Hamas is responsible for the well-being of all of those abducted. We expect them to release the hostages immediately. Our operational activities are designed in order to make sure that Hamas does not have this capability again, and that is what we will press forward to do. We're currently utilizing our Air Force to the extent, and some ground forces, and also the Navy, and we are hitting Hamas in their institutions, in their infrastructure. All of their capabilities are being degraded and destroyed as we speak.
My last question for you here, and I'm not even sure if you can speak to this, but what does it seem the goal of Hamas is?
So I don't want to be in any way the spokesperson for Hamas. I think they're an organization that has carried the banner of death and destruction for too long, and they need to be stopped.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you all are very busy, so we appreciate it. Is there anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
I think the solidarity and support from people around the world for Israel and for being on the right side of history is the most important message we can try and convey to our friends and even people that have been had problems with Israel's policy. This is something that everybody needs to align with in a situation where they cannot permit this type of thing to ever happen again in anywhere.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Please stay safe. We appreciate it.
Thank you.